Hello everybody. You probably noticed this isn't Harry Sherrard and it's not Dick Bennetts, it's Neil Bailey, the chairman of the members. First of all, it's lovely to see so many of you, both members and guests, back in the hall here, full up. Lovely to see lots of people. We know we're back to normal because we had queues in the bar, so it's all back to normal, which is lovely, but thank you so much for coming. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. First of all, just a quick health and safety. It is a hot evening. For those of you who've got long memories, you may remember the first dinner when I was the chair here was in this room, and I had 3 ladies keel over with the heat, and we had to get the paramedics. I'd like that not to happen tonight, and Harry has very helpfully laid on a load of water and glasses at the end, so help yourself to water, and particularly if you start to feel yourself keeling over, please. I've said just now this is members and guests. Any of you who are guests and not already members, you've got absolutely no excuse tonight because Debbie Crought is at the back there on the table with all the memorabilia and the membership applications. So anyone who's not a member, I hope they will be by the time they leave this evening. So that's all my health and safety, if you like, an introduction. Harry's asked me just to introduce his speaker today. Of course, he's Dick Bennetts, who I've read a lot about recently. Knew of him, knew his name, but I've seen quite a lot about him on YouTube and other media. And the video some of you have been watching, you can go and watch it on the Brooklands members TV channel, so it's on YouTube, so it's there. Delighted that Dick could be here, and I had a quick intro with him about half an hour ago. And he's obviously in love with Brooklands, as he's in love with his wife, because I've discovered he got married here last year. He got married in the room here, so it's a genuine Brooklands person coming here tonight, so congratulations. And I'll pass over to Harry, who's going to introduce him. Thank you both. Lovely to see you.
Okay, thanks Neil. Thanks. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I think you covered all the health and safety bits and pieces, so we're extremely warm welcome to you all this evening. If you do really feel you want a break, we don't plan a break, but if you feel we want a break would be suitable, then I guess we'll stop and maybe have a 5-minute comfort break. So, Dick, as alluded to by Neil, you haven't come very far this evening, have you? Because you literally just live around the corner. Am I getting a bit of feedback? Okay, you just live around the corner from Brooklands, but of course, originally, of course, you lived a lot further away, South Island, New Zealand. So, how did you get involved in motorsport? Was there family involvement?
No, not really. It was probably my dad. He used to take me to watch street races in New Zealand. Then I took an interest. I'm going back quite a few years.
So what is this what you call a New Zealand street race here then?
It was when I thought I was quite a good driver, but I realised then after a while I'm a better engineer than a driver. I had a very highly developed Ford 100E, always finished second in my class, never won it. It was probably my driving lack of ability. So then I decided not to pursue a driving career and do engineering and motorsport.
Okay, so where did you then go from there in terms of going into professional motorsport?
My hometown Dunedin there wasn't much motorsport, so I had an opportunity to move to Auckland. One of my mates in the Otago Sport Car Club, Alan Dick, he said there's someone in Auckland looking for someone of my ability, young lad, wants passion for motorsport. So I applied, and I was 72 applications, and they got it down to 5. They flew me to Auckland. I'd never flown to Auckland before. I was 20 years old, and I was quite nervous, like moving away from my hometown. But did the interview with Ray Stone, Dennis Marwood, Performance Developments, and this incredible motorsport facility. I never, been used to it, and like, wow, I want this job. So I flew back to Dunedin, and my friend Alan put a word in for me, and I had to fly back up again. The first trip they paid for, I had to pay for the second one. So I thought, a bit tough on, but I got the job, and I said to them I'll be here long term because I loved it there.
Is this one of the cars you worked on here, this Chimera?
That's one of the first proper, it's an ex-Trans Am touring car, not touring car, New Zealand sedan race. It was genuine from America was 5 litre regulations, but New Zealand rules were 6 litre, so my first winter job was to convert it from 5 litre to 6 litre, and I read every book I could, bought all the bits from America. I wasn't allowed to fly to America, I had to buy them all, and it turned out to be a fantastic engine, and we won a lot of races. So of the 2 bosses, that was Dennis Marwood, but the engineer guy, Ray Stone, very clever guy. We had a Alan Mann escort, Paul Fahey drove.
So in your early days, you were very much an engine man rather than chassis development.
Yeah,
that would come later.
We didn't concentrate much on brakes or suspension, or just how fast can you go. Learned a lot since. Engines are very important, but the chassis are very important now. So
then you transitioned then and moved on into Formula Ford then in the single-seaters. How did that transition come about?
While I was in Auckland, Dennis took me to the Auckland Car Club, and every Thursday night the guys met, and he introduced me to this guy, David Oxton, who then became Formula Ford champion.
This is his car here, is it?
That's not New Zealand.
That's when you got back to the UK then, yeah.
That's so the trip for David was a free trip to Brands, the World Cup. So he wanted someone to help him, so he asked me, and I used to sit in school and read books about Cosworth, Alan Mann, all these companies in the UK. I never learnt French. I thought, living 12,000 miles away, what do I want to learn French for? So I used to sit in the back corner with my motorsport magazines while the French lessons were on.
Sounds familiar.
So a
few of us have done that.
We came over to the UK July 72, and we borrowed a Merlin M11A from a McLaren fabricator guy, Alan Burrows. And we ran that car to learn all the tricks of the British Formula Ford, because New Zealand Formula Ford ran on slick tyres. These guys ran on treaded Firestone tyres. Quite massive difference. So we got to meet various people. We got to the final round, but one small story there. While we were doing all these races around the UK, learning the drivers, learning the car, every time we go in for a debrief, it was in a bar at the circuit. And this chap come across to us and he said, I watch you guys at all the meetings, you always have a beer afterwards. And, oh, that's what Kiwis do, have a chat about what was good, what was bad. And it turned out it was Jerry Marshall. And he's always in the bar, always used to be. So he became a good friend, really, you know. I'd read all about him when I was in New Zealand, Jerry Marshall. So the other car there is another Kiwi, Jim Murdoch, worked at McLaren's. It's a TUI Formula Atlantic car, not Pacific, the Atlantic. And that was designed by another Kiwi, Alan McCall. Right. So that was down in Newbury. We were living in a little masonette in Egham, and a little lock-up garage we had for the Merlin. We used to work at night on it, so we actually tacked in about 6 garages down a power feed into our garage, and the landlord caught us, so we got evicted. We were in panic mode. How are we going to prepare this car for the World Cup? That the black tow car of ours, David and I bought that. We'd only been a week in the country, and it was an ex-Scotland Yard Hillman Minx. And that was our tow car for a while. Then we upgraded. Two of David's friends arrived over closer to the World Cup, and we upgraded to a Mark III Zephyr, so we were much more hot, upmarket then. But
so going back to the festival itself then, I mean, you'd obviously done all this prep and you'd worked on the cars. Thanks, Tim. Got it going again. Thank you. So this is the car now on the grid for the final at the Formula Ford Festival.
This is David on pole position at Brands Hatch for the World Cup. And the guy alongside him, a Mexican, Johnny Gerber. We were quick. Another little trick we learnt is the tyres they issued for the Formula Ford World Cup had a red dot on the sidewall, so they issued them on the Wednesday. We had learnt from running this car that the more the tyres wore down, the quicker we were. So we grabbed all these new tyres with the red spot, raced up to South London, went to a tyre guy, and we buffed off 5mm of the 8mm, and that was the trick. And no one else done it because they said you have to run the tyre. Well, it is. It's got the red dot on it, so that helped us get pole.
So pole position, so far so good. How did the race go?
We don't talk about that. Lap 2, Johnny Gerber passed David. It was a Grand Prix track in those days. Gerber passed David down the back straight like he was standing still, and we thought this isn't right. But David got into lap 2 paddock bend, and he braked too late and locked up and into the Armco. So there's another debrief in the Kintergon bar.
So yeah, your talents were obviously coming out and getting cars going quicker and quicker, and so moving on through the ranks, then you started working in obviously higher powered cars and Formula Pacific cars, which I think these down under these cars.
I spent a year at March Works Formula 2 team, but the politics was unreal, and our chief mechanic was an Aussie, and me being a Kiwi, we didn't hit it off that well. So, I couldn't cope with the politics. There was too many middle management, so I left after 1 year. I got on great with Robin Herd and Max Mosley, but I left, and then I had an opportunity for this guy, Fred Opert, from New York, New Jersey, and I thought, he's not serious, he's always a character, but I took the job, and the first job was we went to New Zealand with Brian Redman with a Chevron BMW. And I said to Fred, but New Zealand's Formula 5000, what's the point? And he never told me, but it turned out there was 4 BMW Formula 2 engines to do 5 weekends. And I thought, why do we need 4 engines? And it turned out BMW Motorsport wanted to use the New Zealand summer to develop their engine. So after 1 race, we got a phone call, change the engine, put another one in. And I was going, there's nothing wrong with it. But we didn't understand then what the big game was. So it was a good series. So then we came back and did Formula 2 in Europe with Keke Rosberg. This is Keke.
That's Keke there, yeah.
This is 78 in New Zealand. So Keke and Bobby Rahal. So we won the New Zealand Championship in 77 with Keke. The other driver was Miko Kozorowicki. You've probably never heard of him. He's a very good Davis Cup tennis player, and he was better at that than a race driver. So we went back to New Zealand the next year with Bobby and Keke, and we won again, and Bobby was third.
So obviously your reputation was growing, and one Ron Dennis came knocking, and your next career move then was to join Ron Dennis's Project 4. He hadn't taken over McLaren at that time.
Yeah, I left. I spent 2.5 years with Fred, but I finished up being a mechanic, an engineer, a truck driver, an accountant, and I said to Fred, I go to America and rebuild engines for him. He realised I could build engines, so he was a great guy, but he just was too much, so I got an offer to join Project 4, Ron Dennis. And the first year was Formula 2. Eddie Cheever works BMW engines. But then the next year, Ron, we assembled all these 25 BMW M1 coupes for the Pro Car series. And we'd finished them and we were absolutely knackered. And Ron said, 1 more. I said, no, we can't do it. He said, 1 more, we're going to run it ourselves. I said, okay, who's driving? Can't tell you. No, we're not doing it. And there's a couple of guys here tonight, Pete Hennessy, Kev Weston, and we gave in to Ron and we built it. And I reminded Ron, I said, don't forget how we're going to transport it. He said, the F3 truck. I said, it's a heavy car. No, you'll be right. So we finished this car at 3:30 in the morning, went to load it in the transporter. 3:40, the hydraulics on the tail lift blew. So we're all sitting there, what do we do now? So I went and rang Ron, 20 to 4 in the morning. Hello? I said, Ron, Dick? Yeah. I said, remember that discussion on the tail lift? Yep. I said, it's just done what I said, it's failed. You've got to be at Silverstone at 9 o'clock. Put the phone down. So we took off the piping, reworked it, aero-equipped it, home for a shower, drove up to Silverstone. We still didn't know the driver because it was plain white at that stage. And then comes a helicopter and out hops Niki Lauda. And Ron said, is that good? Are you happy now? Covered in hydraulic oil. So that was the beginning of...
So you went on to have a successful season. I think this is Monaco. He won the Monaco round.
Yes, we won 3 races, the Silverstone round, Monaco round and Hockenheim. Yeah. Fantastic car, beautiful sounding, but Niki was not the easiest person to work with.
He's quite demanding.
But he delivered the goods and we won the championship. We had a big accident in Zandvoort and we had to go to Munich to repair the car. And then Ron, being Ron, he actually prepared a spare car, sent it out to Monza for the final round. So we had 5 and 5T sitting there. But we won the championship with the damaged car.
And I think then you carried on in a pro car the following year for Hans Stuck. I mean, he has a fairly feisty reputation as well, Hans Stuck.
We ran Hans for half a season, then the sponsorship ran out, so 1980, and we won Monaco again, and we won Norrisring, but the choice to work for which driver would be Hans any day. He was fantastic to work for. And actually at Norrisring he said, I think the engine's down on power, we don't want to change the engine. We changed the engine and he won the race the next day, and he said, I told you the engine was not good. So, but he was a fantastic guy on and off track.
So of course around this time Ron Dennis has acquired the McLaren Formula 1 team, so were there F1 opportunities opening up for you then at this period?
That was going on during 1980, so Ron asked me, when we stopped running Hans, Ron put me upstairs in a very hot, these guys who are here will know, boiling hot workshop upstairs, and in the corner was an office with air conditioning, probably 15 foot by 15 foot, and in there was John Barnard and Alan Jenkins designing the first ever carbon Formula 1 car, carbon chassis. So I was working on it, helping rub down the moulds, and I'm pretty fussy on things, and every time I think that's perfect, John would come out, no, not right, not good enough. And I thought, oh. So I went to Ron, I'm not enjoying this. So he said, right, I want you to take over the Formula 3 team. I said, I've never done Formula 3. He said, well, you'll sort it. So they were having trouble with the March 803, so I said to Ron, there's some Kiwi guy, Rob Wilson, he does very well in a Ralt. So the Ralt factory is only 20 minutes from Project 4. We jumped in Ron's Porsche down to the Ralt factory. The 2 Rons, Taranaki and Dennis, had a meeting. They come out and Ron said, you've got what you wanted. I said, no, I didn't ask for it. So, and then we couldn't get this Ralt going any quicker than the March. We were backwards and forwards to Goodwood with Stefan Johansson, backwards and forwards, back. Every time we go back, Stefan and I go, who's going up to see Ron, your turn or my turn? Because Ron, are we ready to race? No. But eventually we sussed the problem, whether it was too soft for an aerodynamic car. So I stiffened it up massively, and we were suddenly much quicker than the March. So we went on to win the last 4 races out of 4, and we came from 3rd to 1st in the championship. And
and so doing beat Kenny Aitchison. I was very much following him that season, so your run of form upset me. Yeah,
Harry was supporting Kenny Aitchison, and we pipped him by 2 points. And Kenny was run by a Kiwi mate of mine, Murray Taylor, so Murray wouldn't talk to me for a year. So, but yeah.
So this then is the Stefan Johansson car. In fact, many of you have seen the film before we started today. That's the car that's actually in the foyer then of the WSR now. The Johansson car.
The car in our showroom is a double championship winning car. Belongs to Jonathan now, but it's the same car that Stefan won the championship with. Mm-hmm.
So you agreed to run Jonathan Palmer the following year, and as you said, you won the title again.
The WSC the first year was Mike Cox. He owned West Surrey Engineering. He bought the car for Jonathan, but they'd only ever run Formula Ford. And they took the car, I took it to Goodwood. Stefan did 20 laps. Jonathan hopped in, did a good job. They bought the car, they rang me up 2 weeks later, we've lost a second a lap, half a second a lap. I said, right, bring it back. Checked it over, and I said, why have you done that? Why have you done this? Oh, that's, the Formula Ford did that. I said, no, it's an aerodynamic car. It's a proper ground effects car. All skirts, tunnels. So I reset it up, took him back, and he went quicker than Stefan had ever gone. So I said to the owner, I said, you've got a good driver here, because he's gone very quick. And I said, you've wasted your money unless you get someone to run it. And he said, well, what am I doing? I said, I'm off to New Zealand to help my mate Dave Oxton, who had just bought the big brother of this car, a Priaulx RT4. And I said, I can't let him down because he's put his trust in me. So we semi-agreed to set up a team. I took off home to New Zealand. We won the championship with Dave with the RT4. And while I was out there, there was no iPhones then, there was no WhatsApp, so that there was telexes, expensive phone calls, and we set up WSR race team while I was 12,000 miles away.
And we've saw in the film you're a fantastic WSR workshops now that can swallow entire juggernauts and things. But back in the day, that was the Formula 3 workshop.
I got back from New Zealand mid-February because my brief was a nice workshop, nice truck. I'll sort a #1 mechanic. He can find. Dave was his Formula 4 mechanic. We'll keep him. I got back in this tiny little lock-up garage, and this isn't quite what I envisioned. But the bottom line is you can still prepare a championship-winning car if you've got the right people. It's not the workshop, but we did struggle for facilities. So
sure.
That's photos actually 82 with Niki Lauda.
82, yeah. So that's going on to the following year, and of course, being an Argentinian, Mansell had some notable motor racing friends then.
Yep, that was.
What are you showing fans you?
Mansell became professional, so we then switched the name because Mike Cox paid for Jonathan, so the WSC then switched to be a commercial company, WSR. And unfortunately for Kiki, when Juan came over to visit us, Kiki had just written off his brand new car. So we couldn't change the date because it's not often you could get hold of someone like Fangio.
No.
So poor old Kiki was very long in the face because he was one badly damaged car, but we borrowed Jonathan's car from the year before to do the first 3 rounds while we fixed his car.
And of course, during that season, Ayrton Senna was winning everything in Formula 4 2000. And then at the end of that year, then in the Kiki's car that we just looked at, you gave Senna then his Formula 3 debut. This was the round that took place at Thruxton every year at the end of the season.
Yes.
And this is Senna on pole position in that same car.
I got introduced to Ayrton mid-year 82 by Dennis Russian, who Ayrton drove for in Ford 2000. Chatted away, and then Eddie Jordan said to me, I'm running Senna next year. I said, oh, okay, all right. Ayrton come to me a few weeks later, said, I want to do a test. So we went to Snetterton for half a day only, and he blitzed everyone's lap times in the Mansell car. So he said, right, I want to do the last race with you guys. In pole position first, fastest lap, and he won by about 11, 12 seconds. He got out the car, he said, I want to run with you next year. That was it, on a plane to Brazil. No contract, nothing.
So this is your setup then the following year, and was it really just the 4 of you running that car again? We see what a massive team it is nowadays, but it was the 4 of you ran the Senna championship winning car.
We upgraded to a Flash transporter from 82 to 83, so that was we're very proud of our race truck. But yeah, we just won a race at Silverstone, so the Kiwi guy on the left, Tony Fairburn, and Dave Stevens was Jonathan's Formula 4 mechanic. And then Alex was our truckie, and then myself. That was it. That was our...
Yeah, and we'll see in a moment how many people it takes to run a touring car these days, so quite a different time. Sorry.
Dave Stevens now went to America, and he's been working for a top Indycar team for years. So a lot of these guys progress on.
So Senna, obviously, you said it was a very robust season. Him and Martin Brundle. There's a film made about it. In fact, Senna v Brundle, and it seemed that Senna tailed off a little bit in the middle of the season, but then picked up again towards the end. What was the reason for that?
yeah, long story, I'll keep it short, but we won the first 9 races out of 9, and I knew one day the bubble had to burst, and it did at race 10. We opted to go for an outright win at the European round at Silverstone. We had such a lead on in the British side, we opted to go for Yokohama's to win outright. Unbeknown to me, Eddie Jordan had run in Europe all 82 on Yokohama tyres. So A, he knew how the tyre, and B, he knew Yokohama people, I didn't. So they had a 100% tyre service, we didn't. So Ayrton, trying to keep up with Martin, crashed. And he said he had a puncture in the left rear, but I'm never sure to this day what happened. But that set him on the downhill run, and we found out then we were having to run less downforce on the back to keep up with Martin. And it wasn't until the end of the season we thought, someone said, oh, Brundle's got a... We both had Nova Motor Toyotas from Italy, but ours was rebuilt in the UK. So I thought, right, we sent Ayrton went out in my car, out to Italy with the engine, his race engine. Nova Motor rebuilt it, and we came back and like, oh, what a difference. We did a half-day test at Snett before the final round, and we blitzed Martin in his, because they were there. Eddie Jordan at one end of the pits, we were at the other end, both timing each other. There was no TSL timing then, so hand stopwatches. Ron Taranaki had given us some 1984 side pods to try out. There's 2 parts, one geometry, he gave that to Eddie Jordan, because I knew what the geometry was and didn't want it, so just before lunch we put the new side pods on, and Ayrton did 5 laps. He came and he said, they're mega. So between the new engine and the downforce, after lunch he went out and just blitzed poor old Martin. But that was testing. So we got to the final round, Thruxton, and again, pole position first. But trying to get a 1-step advantage, the Nova motor was slow on getting the oil temperature up, so the engine wouldn't run freely. So the oil tank had the side pod had a slot in it. So we tested it, and we put tape over it to get the oil hot, and then Ayrton could lean out and pull the tape off when he'd done 2 laps. So I thought, yep, this is magic. It worked round Snett, oil temperature went up to 120, engine runs free, this is the trick. We forgot about Thruxton so fast. Coming up to the chicane about lap 2 or 3, he loosened his belt, and he could hardly get the tape off, and he almost crashed, and that could have cost us the championship, but he managed to tear it off. And several people said afterwards, why did he loosen his belts going through the chicane? I said, oh, I don't know. But that almost, trying to be too clever, caught us out.
So tell us, Dick, when you're working with Senna, I mean, did you know he was something special? I mean, did you sense he was going to become one of the all-time greats?
First test day, he was unbelievable with his feedback on the chassis, his feel for the engine, gear ratios, everything. He was just 1 step above.
Yeah, so you fully expected him to go on to great things, obviously, in Formula 1 in due course.
His downfall was he hated finishing second. When he's behind Martin, I used to say to him, just finish, get 6 points, maybe fastest lap 7. I want to win. I said, just 6 points is better than none. And we went through 3 chassis that year, because the aluminium chassis just folded up. And he was so hard. He was a very intelligent guy, but he had this belief in himself he should win everything.
And one of his great wins, he signed off in great style by winning Macau, the first time it had run to Formula 3 regulations.
83 at Macau was the first ever Macau Grand Prix, so top British teams, top French, top German, top Italian, top Japanese teams all invited to Macau. No one had been there, so it was this is the big event. Poor old Ayrton was in Paul Ricard on the Wednesday before testing the Brabham Formula 1 car. We were out in Macau. All the other drivers had walked around this fantastic 4-mile street circuit. Ayrton arrived midnight Wednesday night, had to hop in the race car without knowing which way to go. And by the time we got through free practice, got to qualifying, pole position. Yeah. And everyone just shook their head. They've all been walking around making maps and all that, and he just arrived bang.
Yeah, really shows he was in a class of his own, really.
Yeah, but he won race 1, 2 heat races, and then the debrief, we qualified Friday and raced on Sunday. Saturday was free. And he was supposed to come up to the Theodore garage at midday, so they didn't turn up. He turned up at 6 p.m. and we'd finished the car. He said, we'll talk about it. I said, no, we've prepared the car, it's ready for Sunday. He said, I said, at 6 o'clock, Harry, where have you been? Oh, I don't feel well. And I still don't honestly know to this day whether he was genuinely ill or I heard rumours he went out Friday night to some nightclub because he had all Saturday off and someone spiked his drinks. And I still don't know the truth.
Yeah, but he went out and won it nonetheless.
But he won both races on Sunday. Between race 1 and 2, he had to go back to the hotel and have a sleep.
So he then introduced you to his friend Maurizio Gugelmin, one of the few racing drivers I think to be sponsored by a chicken farm, a Brazilian chicken farm. So our eyes drawn obviously to you sitting beside Maurizio Gugelmin here on the grid in the following year. But of course, if you're observant, you will notice another notable figure in the photograph here, Ayrton Senna looking on. So what's going on there?
This is 85 and the rules had changed from ground effects to flat floor, so it was a massive change to the regs and learning. And we struggled the first 3 or 4 races till we eventually found that Ron Taranaki had a design problem in the front geometry. It was going stagnant, so we found it. I got so annoyed after the 3rd race, we went back to the workshop and we spent till 1 o'clock in the morning just going through the front end, because whatever we changed, always understeer. So we eventually found it. I went down to the Ralt factory the next morning, got a pair of rockers off the storeman and took them away. Then Ron Taranaki found out. He said, rang back, what have you got those for? And I said, just having a fiddle, Ron. And I said, I think something's not right. So we re-drilled the rockers, went out testing, fantastic, fixed the problem. So Ron then wanted to give everything to the other customer. I said, no, that's our exclusive. So we had a big debate on how many exclusive races till the customers got them. So then this is the final round at Silverstone Grand Prix, and Ayrton arrived, and we'd tested for 2 days there and got the car trimmed down to very low downforce, and Ayrton kept saying, Dick, you haven't got enough downforce. The others have all got a lot of wing on. I said, don't worry, Harry, we're under control. No, you haven't got enough wing on. He kept on tapping me on the shoulder, and he was still looking at it then, just about to start the race. And I said, do not worry, we've done the testing 2 days. I said, all Maurizio had to do was beat Andy Wallace off the line and we're gone. And sure enough, we won the race comfortably, so we won the championship again. Yeah. But they were very close friends. I had a task, 85, to look to buy a house for Ayrton. And he didn't want to use his name, so Muggins me put my name to all the estate agents, and we went round these 5 very plush houses, all around the area. He said, I've got to be 30 minutes from Heathrow to fly out to Grand Prix. So one particular house we went to is a gravel driveway, and he didn't like the lady in the house because Maurizio and Ayrton would arrive tracksuits on, I'd have my jeans on, and the lady would say, who's buying this house? I said, one of those 2 gentlemen. Have they got any money? I said, do not worry, one of them can pay cash. So when he drove out, he had a Merc, AMG Merc. He floored it down the driveway and gravel going everywhere. I said, my name's on the estate agent, not yours. And he left these 2 marks all the way down. Well, I finished up getting a house for him down in Esher.
Yeah, you had to do so much more for them than just the engineering.
The first brief when he walked in, the back garden. I said, what about the house? Oh, that's all right. He walked out the back garden and it had to be big enough to fly his little remote helicopter. That's all he wanted. As long as the garden's big enough, he could play with his helicopter.
So next year then you went through the beginning of a series of Marlboro scholarships running different drivers with Marlboro sponsorship. I think the second one was, Bertrand Gachou was first in, Eddie Irvine. I think this is Eddie at Brands Hatch.
The first year with the Marlboro Young Driver, we ran that from 87 to 94. And the first one was Bertrand Gachot. You'll probably remember him for the CS Gas in London. He took a disliking to a taxi driver, so that's all I know. But then we ran Eddie Irvine the next year, and
so he's obviously a reputation of being a fairly larger-than-life character. You got any anecdotes about Eddie for us?
We actually switched to Alfa Romeo engine. There's a gentleman here who used to help us out, Roger from Alfa Romeo, kindly loaned us a beautiful sport wagon car. If Eddie was as good at concentrating on racing as he was at selling road cars on the way to a race meeting, he'd do well. He arrived late one race and he'd bypassed coming to Silverstone to sell a car, and the deal didn't go quick enough for him, so he arrived at the track late, and I had to sell this car. I had to sell it today. So he was unbelievable. And one of his mates had designed this telephone. This is before proper mobiles, and the aerial on the back of his Alfa was about 15 foot tall. Inside was a box about this big, and you'd take about 15 minutes to get it going, but you could phone around the world for nothing. Of course, I'd be phoning New Zealand, the other guys would be phoning around the world. And that was Eddie always looking for the best deal he could get. And you can still see it there. All he had on his helmet was a Marlboro logo, no livery at all. I said, Eddie, every driver has a nice livery. No, I'm not paying for that. He's just, someone can buy it for me.
So next up then in the marble scheme was Alan McNish. And what's James Hunt's role in all of this?
Long story. James was taken on by Philip Morris to be an ambassador to help the young drivers. And this is on the grid at Thruxton. We had two cars, Alan McNish, Philip Morris, and we had Derek Higgins with Benetton car. We were 1-2 on the grid. Derek got pole, Alan was second. Alan won the race and Derek got fastest lap, getting a slipstream from Alan. But pre the race, James comes over to be helpful. He's chatting away, and Alan's talking to me on the old Peltor. Can you get rid of James? He's talking rubbish. Can you get rid of James? So I had to politely go around James. Alan just wants to concentrate on the race now, because James was trying to, make out he was advising him.
Giving him a bit of last-minute coaching, yeah. So, continuing then the theme now, we're at Macau, and here we have Mika Hakkinen for what would turn out to be a pretty memorable race. So we can't really see him terribly clearly, but I think this is Michael Schumacher in the back. It's Irvine running second, and Michael Schumacher in the back. So you'd won the title again with Mika, the British title with Mika Hakkinen that year, and then went off to Macau, obviously with high hopes of winning it.
We won the British Championship quite comfortably with Mika. He's totally different to Ayrton. The raw talent of this guy was as good, if not better, than Ayrton, but he couldn't give you any feedback. He would do a debrief with his hands. Understeer, oversteer, that was it. Whereas Ayrton could sit down and write everything down. But pure talent, but one round for British. Mika's quite a bright guy, but I didn't know till I got a phone call one Thursday night, immigration 2 here, Heathrow. We've got a Mr. Hakkinen with us. I said, oh yeah, Mika. We're putting him on a plane back to Finland. I said, no, you can't do that. We're racing this weekend. We've warned him 5 times he needs a visa, and he hasn't got one this time. Can I speak to him? Mika, what's up, mate? They just want this bit of paper. It's only a bit of paper. I said, Mika, they've asked you 5 times, you need a visa to come in. So we had to get lawyers involved Friday morning, and eventually we got him cleared to stay till Monday. We were up at Alton Park testing to go racing, and on the Friday, and the rumour went down the pit lane. I'll never forget the guy, Steve Robertson, the driver, his dad, Dave Robertson. He walked down, he said, Dick, we've heard that Mika's not coming. He's back in Finland. I said, might be. 10 to 5, Mika screeches up in his car, hops out, and I said, you got 10 minutes, mate. You got bed and some brakes and go. Hopped in the car, bedded brakes for 2 laps, P1. The others have been testing all day. Okay, we had the advantage of Christian Fittipaldi. We had a new little rear wing, a small jet flap, so that was less drag. So Christian tested that. We had a new front wing. So when Mika arrived, that was all on his car, all balanced out. But when he went P1, Dave Robertson come back and he said, we're all wasting our so-and-so time, we may as well go home. That bloke arrives, does 5 laps and goes P1. So that was his raw talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did Macau go then after winning the title?
Macau, pole position. Again, these years it was a 2 heat race added together. So you win heat 1, 15 laps, then you race 2. So I explained to him after race 1, the bigger you can lead race 1, the better you are for race 2. Yeah.
So that was before the race, you mean, yeah?
Yeah, before
race 1, yeah.
So heat 1, 14 laps down, he had a 4.7 second lead. I thought, good boy, he's looking good. When he crossed the line 1.5 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Eddie dropped back to 3rd in our other car.
Schumacher, yeah.
So I said, Mika, why did you slow down? Oh, I have a big lead. I said, not as big as 4.5 seconds. I said, race 2, you've got 1.5 seconds up your sleeve. You must, if Michael does slipstream past you, as long as you stay within 1 second, you've won the Macau Grand Prix. Yeah. So, lap 4 or 5, sure enough, Schumacher slipstream past Mika, and Mika sat within a second. I thought, good boy, he's listened. Because we had no pitch-to-car radio in those days. We couldn't talk to the driver. So, starting the last lap, he went past, he was like right up Schumacher's gearbox, I thought. And then we had no TVs on our pits in the old pits at Macau. And I heard this big cheer. I thought, oh yes, he's got past him. So I ran upstairs to the TV, and here's our route in the Armco. He tried to pass Michael, and Michael just moved on him, and Mika, one written off route Formula 3 car.
It seems incredible that a guy that could go on to win 2 world championships, couldn't understand this concept of a 2-part race.
It's just, he was fantastic guy, great laugh, but also when we ran Christian the same year, Christian was a very good driver, Christian Fittipaldi. He'd come into the workshop, we had a great night out in London the other night, out to nightclubs with Mika. Mika would come and I said, good night out, Mika. Oh, no, I don't go out late, I don't drink. Go and talk to your teammate, he's told me everything. Oh, don't you believe him?
Yeah, so it was sort of replayed in the future, wasn't it, when Mika Hakkinen and Schumacher then went head-to-head for the Formula 1 World Championship. That incident was sort of replayed, and I guess Michael Schumacher trying to out-psych him over what had happened in Macau.
The worst thing that particular year, whoever won Macau, we were racing in Fuji, Japan the next weekend, and we were switching from Marlboro, Theodore, to Casio. So red and white cars had to be all re-liveried to blue and white. So we had to build a new car and re-livery it all. We did an all-nighter at Fuji. And Mika just like, well, what's the problem?
So I'll tell you what's in the next picture. Well, before we go, it's the sort of the Dick Bennetts Academy at the four drivers. We've got Eddie Irvine, Ayrton Senna, Alan McNish, and of course Mika, the 4 of them. Because there we go. Yeah. Like I said, these 4 guys at a Marlboro event, sort of all graduates of your academy, and 3 world champions, of course, because McNish did win the sports car world championship, yeah. And of course another dynamic going on. Irvine and Mika went head to head in for the world championship as well.
83, Eddie 87, Alan 88, and Mika 90. So yeah, that was taken at Silverstone on a Formula 1 test day. It's a bit grainy because that's on what's it called?
It's on a canvas. Yeah, we photographed it from a canvas, which is why it's a little bit like that. Yeah. So the end of the Marlborough era, but you then signed up Rubens Barrichello, who was only 17, I think, which is kind of normal now, but he was exceptionally young then for an F3 driver, wasn't he?
He joined us 17, left us at 18 as British F3 champion. Fantastic little guy, very quiet. He just won a race there at Donington. Incredible qualifier, 9 pole positions, very good at getting the maximum out of tyres, but he never ever come round leading one race. He was absolute rubbish at starts. So we actually took him to Santa Pod Dragway with his teammate Geordie Jenno, and we did 9 practice starts, and Geordie still beat him 7 out of 9. He just couldn't, he didn't have the knack of getting the clutch working properly, the right revs. And he was not that quick on lap 1 on cold tyres, but qualifier, 9 poles. And the final round at Thruxton, all he had to do was, Coulthard was the other contender, all he had to do was finish 5th. He was on pole, Rubens. He came round in 10th place. And I was just, my heart, we're going to lose this, but David Coulthard had to win the race to win the championship. And he was desperate, and he tried passing a Japanese lad, Niki Lauda, and he hit and he bent his front wing. But again, I couldn't talk to Rubens and tell him, because So Rubens got through and finished 5th to win the championship, but yeah, it went to the wire again. Yeah,
he went on to be one of the, driving a lot of Grand Prix, didn't he? One of the highest number of drives in Grand Prix, that Rubens Barrichello after that. So kind of changing the story now and moving on from single-seaters and moving then into touring cars, you made that transition, the first contract with Ford, and as we know, Jackie Stewart had a contract to promote Ford. How did that come about? How did he go in the touring car?
When the Formula 3 switched from Priaulx to Reynard to Dallara, the Dallara car, which we used for the last 3.5 years, it was such a fantastic customer car out the box. You could hardly improve it, so I got a bit bored. So a Kiwi mate of mine, Paul Radicic, said, "You want to come and have a look at touring cars?" He was driving for Andy Rouse. So I went to Brands and he introduced me to the Ford hierarchy, and I thought, thousands of people compared to F3 rounds. And I thought, this looks good. So we had a contract with Ford just to run the cars, not to design and build, because we were new in. But there was I have to admit, there was disastrous 3 years because we never got given good equipment. And we won one race only with Will Hoy because of our pit stop strategy. And we had some fantastic wheel changing equipment. We had wheel nuts and sockets made in America, mega expensive, but we blitzed everyone on a pit stop and Will won a race. So. But we were asked by Ford to give Jackie a run. I thought, this will be hard work. And to be honest, he was very impressive. The guy to jump into a touring car, front-wheel drive, big, heavy V6 engine, and his feedback impressed me. He was so accurate with his feedback for a guy who, wasn't the front-wheel drive touring car.
No, and obviously had retired many years earlier.
Yeah.
So another notable occupant of the Mondeo was everyone's favourite Nigel Mansell, famous race at Donington Park. So how did that go with Nigel?
I've got to be honest, I was never a Mansell fan till we ran him, and now I am a Mansell fan. He was, this particular day, he only did 3 rounds as a PR exercise for Ford, got paid handsomely to do 3 rounds, and this was in the wet at Donington, and he crashed in race 1, not heavily, but bad enough. And he didn't think we could fix the car for race 2, and I said, no, we've got some good fabricators, good guys, so we fixed the car. We said, we're ready to go, and he almost didn't want to do it, but he started last and came through to lead the race. He got so excited to be leading a race, he started making mistakes, and he finished 4th or 5th, but it was one of the apparently still best ever touring car races. You had some, John Clellan, Derek Warwick.
Yeah.
And that was super touring, different to what we run now. These were all mega expensive. The rules were wide open. So it's much more controlled now.
And so you then got a deal to run Hondas then also in super touring, and of course worked with another legend then, Tom Kristensen.
We did a switch with ProDrive. We took the Honda off them and they took the Ford off us. And I have to say, I always used to look up to ProDrive, and that they never won a race because I purposely delayed them getting the Fords, so they didn't have time to develop it. Because it was a bit of a long story, because they did us hard, ProDrive, what they did to us behind our back. So I thought, okay, I can play that game. So we didn't deliver the cars till very late. And they never won a race the next year with the same car. So I was very happy someone with ProDrive's name, we were new to touring cars. So they blitzed everyone in 2000 with a brand new car. So then we moved on to Honda, and this is year 2000. We ran Hondas 99, 2000, and Tom Kristensen was an absolute fantastic guy to work with. And we let him test the 99 car to learn all the British tracks, and he was going well, going quick. When the 2000 car arrived, he went and he said, it's horrible to drive. I said, We knew why, but we wanted him to tell us. The people who designed it there was two teams. We were WSR in the UK and there's JAS in Italy. The JAS guys said power steering's unreliable, so they delivered our new car with no power steering at all, which is absolutely impossible for a front-wheel drive touring car. The 99 car had about 7 degrees caster. Front-wheel drive should have 12 to 15 degrees. This came with nothing, so Tom said, could we run the 99 car? I said, no. Honda said we have to run they've spent all this money on the 2000 car, beautifully built car. So then I rang my old mate Ron Taranaki again. Ron, we're in trouble, come and have a look. He come over, he said, no power steering. I said, yep, you've got to have power steering. I said, I know that. So he rang Honda Japan. We got a budget from them to fit power steering. The German guy from Honda Motor Europe rang me, said, we've heard a rumour you're fitting power steering. You mustn't. It's a 6-month project. I said, yes, we'll do it. 2 weeks later, we had the first car running with power steering, 12 or 13 degrees caster. Tom, fantastic. So we went on to win the last 2 ever Super Touring races. And Tom said if we'd started with that car the way we finished, we would have won the championship. So internal politics, but we proved a point that we could make power steering in 2 weeks.
And I think you're also in the team that was the end of or coming towards the end of the Super Touring era. And you won the last two races of that era.
We won the last 2 ever Super Touring races with Tom, and he gladly gave me his hot and sweaty crash helmet when he got out the car. It was a night race at Silverstone, so it proudly sits on our display at work. Yep. But most of you know, he's also 9 times Le Mans winner, but such a down-to-earth guy, so nice.
Multiple winner at Goodwood, of course. He always gets the best car, mind you, at Goodwood, but he does have a good track record there as well.
He was in that big Galaxy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
About 8 litres against guys with 2 litres. Yeah. And took up the whole track, the width of it.
Yeah, massive, but he can handle it well. So on then to BMW and the eBay Motors era with Colin Turkington. We all know Colin, of course, is a 4-time champion, but when he came to you initially, he was pretty inexperienced.
We switched to BMWs in 07 because our previous sponsor, RAC, you couldn't buy an MG. So they said, why are you racing an MG? You can't buy one. I said, well, that's all we can afford. So RAC helped fund us to buy 2 kits from Munich. That was a 320 SI. It was a limited edition race car, fantastic customer car. So we used that 07, 08, 09. Colin won the championship 09. Then we did selected rounds of the World Championship 2010, which is this one, Yokohama tyres. And we had a fantastic time, but we were dominating the works cars and independents. and we were leading the independents by a country mile. And David will remember we went to a race in Brno, and we again were quickest in qualifying, and the boss man of the FIA World Touring Cars took me into his motorhome. Dick, you are no longer independent. Why? Marcello, Lotti. You're too quick, you're too quick. I said, we're doing our job. The car's legal. It's a customer car from BMW developed by us. We've got a fantastic team, a fantastic driver. And he said, as of now, you're no longer independent. I said, well, we're not a works team. I can show you invoices from Munich, this big. And I said, where are we? He said, you're in no man's land. So Sunday morning warm-up, 8 o'clock. If you're independent, you had a little dot beside your name on the screen. Colin goes out, 8:15 in the morning, there's no dot there. So this guy's serious, we're not independent. I went back to his office in his motorhome. Marcello, you can't do this. Yes, I said, why? He said, all the other teams who have been with me for years are going to walk out because you're too fast. I said, your FIA scrutineers stripped the car, it's legal. What's the problem? He said, I lose all my loyal customers for years. I said, so yeah, we then stopped getting prize money, stopped getting, so we continued on. And
you had to go with it then,
yeah.
To continue. So yeah, lots and lots of success, including winning the 2019 BTCC again with Colin here.
Yeah, and it's Colin right up the back.
Yeah, just here. And of course, I was commenting earlier on the team that ran Ayrton Senna to the Formula 3 Championship, just the four of you in one truck. And this is what a modern touring car team looks like. Quite a transition.
Yeah, that's a three-car team. But yeah, fantastic. Steve here, this one there, yeah. He's been with me 32 years. He joined us in '89, and poor bloke's got cancer in his back, and I cannot get him to slow down. He's still in at work. He's probably still at work tonight because we had a few dramas last Sunday.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a second, yeah.
Would be an understatement. So no, that was fantastic, winning. And I think now up till the end of last year, we've won the Manufacturers' Championship 6 years consecutive for BMW.
And a nice lineup here of
That's
the entire
last
team.
year. We always take a team photo down at Brands Hatch. So Colin's still with us, Stephen's still with us, and Tom's taken a sabbatical. He's gone out to live in Australia for a year or two. And the lady next to me is here tonight. We're very grateful of her to be a long-term supporter from BMW UK.
So taking things right up to date, I took that photograph myself actually when I joined the team.
This is one of Harry's photos, not one of our professional photos.
Well, I think it's slightly raw because it's come in just after a race. Looks as if Colin's had a little bit of a grassy moment here, a little bit of grass in the radiator intake. So I kind of like the rawness of that photograph.
I think we just finished race 2 in the wet at Brands.
Yeah.
But then I might add we went on to finish first and second in race 3.
Yep. So you've had a win for all 3 drivers actually so far this season.
If you saw the video earlier, we're now running hybrid this year. So we enter the car as a 330E. Last year was a 330i. So it's a fantastic car. The louvers and the bonnet are all 3D printed. We do a lot of 3D printing now. All the brake ducts, everything's all 3D printed.
And what is the main, like, the power difference of the hybrid? How does that change the?
When you deploy it gives you about 30 to 35 horsepower extra, and you're limited to how many laps you can use it. In qualifying, how many seconds. If you lead the championship, you get no deployment. For instance, Colin last week was 3rd in the championship, so he had 6 seconds of deployment. We used to carry weight to stop the one particular car dominating, but now you have a hybrid deployment. And in the races you have 15 seconds, but the leader might only have 7 laps out of 15, and then the guys who will be 10th to 29th on the grid have 15 seconds every lap. So it gives everyone a chance to get to the front.
So yeah, so in terms of team personnel, I was impressed, if you like, by the diversity of your. You obviously have quite wide-ranging recruitment practices. But this is forgotten her name now.
Sophie.
Sophie, yeah. I mean, a few years ago, you wouldn't have thought a young female would be #1 mechanic on a race-winning touring car. So I think the sport and your team in particular has really opened up.
This is Sophie's second year as a #1 mechanic. She'd been with us for 2 years as a #2. So we had quite a large debate at work. Do we give a girl a #1 chance and upset one of the boys? And yes, it's equal opportunity.
Well, it was actually quite hard to get a photograph of her because she never stops. It was hard to get a photograph of her because she never seems to stop for a second.
No, she's very good, very dedicated, focused, and one of the guys we had to delay to be a #1 has become a #1 this year, so he's happy now because we try and promote people from within the company. So, but that was one of Harry's photos too.
Yes, I took that one as well. Didn't take this one though. I was around somewhere.
This was the same weekend at Brands with a professional photographer, and it's my lovely daughter. She's come across to help us, support us.
And by coincidence, there's Sophie in the photograph.
I have reminded her I came across here with Dave Oxon for a 2-year working holiday, and I've been here 50 years. She's on a one-way ticket, so I don't know how long she'll be here.
So as Neil mentioned earlier on, you actually got married here at Brooklands, and there you are on the banking appropriately with the BMW, of course.
My lovely wife Terry, my M3 competition, lovely car, but we decided to fill the photographer to go around and get some photos done on the banking. So, yeah, fantastic. It was since July 3 last year. So, yeah.
And so there's a very passionate and emotional-looking Dick Bennetts.
I was just talking to Colin then. He just won the championship, so yeah.
You can obviously see the passion still burning.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Big round for Dick Bennetts. So, I think we do need a volunteer for the roving mic. Does anybody near the front want to ask a question before we get the roving mic going?
You've had a lot of success in the various race categories you've raced in. I just wondered if you've ever considered going up to something like Formula One or even World Sports Car Championship or anything else or Indycars or something like that. Did that opportunity never arise, or did you just didn't want to do it?
Yeah, several opportunities arise, but at my age now, I'm trying to slow down a bit. I do get pressure from a couple of guys at work, why don't we expand? But I'm quite happy being at the sharp end of BTCC. But again, it's a team effort. It's not just me. It's having good people around you all the time. As I said, Steve over there, he's been with us 32 years. And it's having a good crew of people and supporters that keeps us going. And you've got to have a passion for it, a determination and focus. If you want to succeed, you can do it. And some of the guys here, ex-Project 4, know that it's not easy motorsport, but if you want to do it, you have to put your heart into it to succeed. And Neil and I used to battle it. We used to work for Ron together, but when Neil set up an F3 team, it was a battle of two friends, So, but we're still friends, and we have looked at other formulas, but the problem is we looked at going the BMW M4 GT4, fantastic customer car, but some of the races clash with the BTCC, British GT, so you need another crew of people. You need, to double up in transporters. So then you've got to do the numbers. Does it work out?
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Dick? I did mean to mention, Gareth sort of alluded to it. I mean, obviously you could have gone Formula One. I'm sure you'd have pulled in a technical director role in a Formula One team, but there's no regrets at not going that route?
When I worked for Ron, he wanted me to manage the Formula One test team. And little did Ron know, I shared a flat with 4 guys from Brabhams and McLarens. And all I hear is them whinging and moaning. The race team would pinch the test car if they'd had a problem with it, and they'd had to build up another new car. The guys on the test team put in more hours than the guys on the race team. And Ron chased me for 6 months to do it, and I said, Ron, I don't want to do it. And I eventually told him, I share a house with guys in F1, and the stories they tell me, I'm not afraid of hard work, but it's just something, you know, you'd be number 300, or number 1 out of 300 in those days, but now you'd be number 1 out of 1,500. So it's...
So we have another question down here.
Dick, with hybrid cars this year in touring cars, what's the future going to look like in terms of BTCC in, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? Is it really going to go full electric, following what the government want to do with road cars in 2035 or whenever it is?
So I didn't quite hear the last.
Is it going to go electric in line with what the government wants to do with road cars? Can you see the BTCC going electric?
We're hybrid now, and Alan Gow, the boss, I'm not convinced he will go electric. There is electric already in Europe, the World Touring Cars. It's a very small grid this year. I still love the sound of a racing engine, hence why I've got tinnitus. It's a tricky one. I can see it progressing, but me personally, I like to hear the sound of a race engine, whether it's a V8, V6, 4-cylinder.
Yeah, that comment was always going to go down well in this company, Dick. So yeah. Question over here.
Can you hear me, you devil car?
It depends what the question is, Neil.
Right, we said we wouldn't mention that. Yeah, so you've got great recall for an old boy. Can you hear me?
Can now, yeah.
Okay, you've got great recall. And I first met you in 1971 when you were doing our Formula 2 engines at Race Engine Services. And you were just as fussy then. So my question is, and they asked me this when I did the talk, how about putting all this down in a book?
Yeah, it's... I have been asked, and I've always said that I'd probably sell 3 copies, one to my wife, one to my daughter, and one to David. But yeah, it's something I hadn't thought about till recently, when a lot of people said, oh, I didn't realise you'd done this, didn't realise you'd done that, and there's still a lot more stories I could tell. Some of them I can't go public with, but...
Any other questions?
You've had quite a roster of stunning drivers over the years, but is there anyone you had who didn't impress you, who then left and became famous? So I'm just curious if there's someone you sort of didn't rate hugely at the time, who, when they left you, went on to become to great things, because you've got such a reputation, such a back story.
He's saying, is there anybody that you didn't really rate when you were working with them, but who in fact did go on to become pretty successful? And I suppose Eddie Irvine wasn't a star when he was with you, was he really? I mean, he went on to pretty good things.
Most of the guys who come through to us to Formula 3 had been successful in Formula Ford. When we first ran the MG touring cars, we had this young guy, Colin Turkington. His dad brought him to our workshop. He was 18 years old, and his dad proudly said, my boy's Ford Fiesta champion. I went, yes. 80 horsepower little Fiesta. He said, we'd like to be with you in your British touring cars. I thought, maybe we need a test. No, this was Colin's dad. He'll be all right, trust me. And he's turned out to be now our 4 times champion. So at first, this 18-year-old kid walked in the door with his dad, and his dad proudly, he's Ford Fiesta champion, 80 horsepower car. And another little story there, when we did a World Touring Car round in China, the BMW that we were leasing got written off, so we couldn't find another BMW, so we had to lease a Chevy Cruze, front-wheel drive. So what did Colin do? He got his Fiesta out of the garage, he's still got it, and he went testing somewhere in Northern Ireland to get used to front-wheel drive. So 80 horsepower, manual shift against a 400 horsepower, sequential, and that was his dedication. So that was one who I thought, is he any good? But he's proved out to be one of the best BTC drivers out there.
Yeah, and obviously gunning for his record 5th title this year.
5th, yeah,
5th,
hopefully, yeah. But he's got hard work this year. We've got young Jake Hill who's pushing him hard, so it's a bit of a wake-up call for Colin.
And how is Colin? Because I know he took a pretty heavy impact at Oulton Park at the weekend.
We got the report back from the FIA yesterday, and a graph. Every car now has to carry a little FIA G meter and a tiny little thing that sits on the centre prop shaft tunnel. And the report come back and it was incredible. It was a 40G impact. So there's no wonder he's got a sore neck and sore shoulders.
Yeah, I think you told me it was pretty much the worst accident you've ever, in terms of damage to the car, it was the worst accident you've had in BTC.
We had a massive accident in 2014. We had the BMW 125i, Rob Collard with eBay sponsorship, and Rob got tagged at Silverstone and he barrel rolled 6 times. But Rob was shaken up. They had to fly him to hospital because of the electrical. The specialist said it's like an electrical storm in your brain, because when you go over so many times, your brain can't keep up. But he was okay, but that car it looked worse than what it was. We had it running 2 weeks later. Colin's accident on Sunday, the initial thing didn't look that bad, but when we got the car back to the garage, and then when we stripped it by Monday night, it's not sure if the chassis is repairable. So, but we are out at Croft in 8 days' time, and we've brought his 2019 championship shell back into action. So the guys are probably still working tonight on it. We just got it back from the fabricators to put all the hybrid. The idea was that the purchaser of the car didn't want it modified for hybrid, all the welding to hold all the battery and everything. So we built a brand new chassis for Colin this year, 4 races old, and it might be written off. So we brought the old chassis back into play, and he'll be in that for Croft, maybe Snetterton. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Dick? Well, I think the final question then has to be this, Dick. I mean, you're 74 now, I think you told me. Is that right?
Can't remember.
Round about that, yeah. You've obviously, as we've said, a pantheon of stars and race.
75 on the Croft weekend, so I'm working on my birthday.
So does the R word ever crop up at all? You ever think of retiring at all?
I think about it and I thought, what will I do? I can't mow the lawn every day. We love a drop of wine, so you can't keep drinking that every day. I'm looking at slowing down, but I have a passion for motorsport. Motorsport's been my career, and I still will be involved for. I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm being looked at here. I promised to retire, but I don't think. I look at Bernie Ecclestone, 89, I think.
Well, he's over 90 now.
Yeah, but when he was still running Formula One, he was mid-80s, but in Formula One's obviously a lot bigger than running a touring car too.
So is that your target then?
Formula One? No.
Still to be running WSR when you're in your 80s?
No, I still want to be involved, and I will be involved, but like the MotoGP's coming up, so David loves his motorbikes, and we'll be up there, watching that as members of the BRDC. So it's we often go to BSB down at Brands Hatch to watch a motorbike race. And the annoying thing is, next weekend is Goodwood Festival of Speed, and we're racing up in North Yorkshire, so it's going to be a fantastic event because it's BMW's 50th year of the M product, and they're putting on a massive display. And you know, we'll get down to the Thursday only, but we've got to do some work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday up at Croft. So it's if it's in your blood, it's, you know, it's in there. So, but yeah, I am trying to slow down, T. Don't worry.
So, fantastic. I think that definitely deserves another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Dick Bennetts.
Thanks for everyone coming along as well, from new faces, old faces, friends. No, it's been. I was nervous to do it at first. When I come along to Neil's speech, then someone asked me, I said, oh, I don't do speeches, I work away quietly, but I've really enjoyed it. So
good. You did brilliantly. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Just to repeat what Neil said, that terrific film that's shot at WSR's workshops, where Dick takes us all around, shows us the workshops and the cars and everything, that all sits on the Brooklands members' YouTube channel and the Vimeo channel. So, by all means, go on there and watch Dick's excellent video as well. So, thank you all very much indeed for coming, and hopefully see you all at the next mosquito talk, I think I'm right in saying, in July. Very much a different topic. So, thanks everybody for coming. Well done, Dick. Brilliant. Yeah, you did fantastic.